Hello everyone, and welcome to my next series of illustration videos. In this series, I have started making some fake video games, and up first is Dr. Seuss Skirmish, which, if you couldn't see from the title, is going to be a tag team fighting game featuring Dr. Seuss characters. So you can see I've got a little fake start screen here, and obviously the first character we've got to jump into is the cat in the hat. So one of the important things about tag fighters for sure is color palettes. I've got a red and a blue cat here, and let's get into how I created this illustration. So I did something a little bit different. I went with far less texture in the line work. Now this was an intentional choice and something I wanted to experiment with. I wanted to experiment with filters and blurs and kind of After Effect line jitter, not just using a textural brush right from the start. I've got my little palette of Dr. Seuss colors there, pretty fun, and it took a lot of experimentation. As I was making it, I was very tempted to just go back to what I had been doing, like how it was in the Adventure Time videos, just going back to the textures that I was familiar with, but you know, this is a relatively short project, just a couple of illustrations, so I was like, let's just push through, let's try something different and see what happens. You can see here I'm testing, well, that's when I threw in the second color scheme, red and blue. You can see I'm testing how I want to do the shadows here and what brush and what color. Ended up going with like a very, very light blue, pretty standard, and just kind of adding and layering those in there. How much shadow? For this kind of cell shading technique, it was definitely a question as well. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with it. We'll see some more effects at the end, but let's move into our next character, which is kind of going to be like our Wolverine stand-in. I pictured the Grinch having like claws, kind of like in an Ultimate Marvel Wolverine fashion. The Cat in the Hat I could see being like a standard kind of, almost like maybe like Ryu. Marvel vs. Capcom is what I think of when I consider, you know, the ultimate tag fighters. So if Cat in the Hat was Ryu, the Grinch was definitely going to be my Wolverine character. Green was fun. Thinking of alternative colors was also interesting. I went with red. I kind of remembered that. I almost went with orange, but I thought red was a little bit better with that Grinch on Halloween night, kind of that strange other kind of forgotten short, featuring another story with the Grinch on a holiday. This one you can see, same kind of thing. I'm like, you know what, I'm committed to these techniques. Let's go a little bit smoother line work. Let's figure out the places we want our cell shading to add some dimension to it. And then at the end, hopefully the filters can create some interesting effects for us. Our next character, this would be our Chun-Li, as it were, would be the fox in socks. Red version, red and blue, orange and green. Pretty easy, pretty standard colors. Wanted something that was more focused on kicks, less focused on punches. I tried to use the same Dr. Seuss. It's a little cut off in this. There were only certain ones that I needed to create the fox, but I wanted to use these same consistent Dr. Seuss style colors. You can see now I've kind of grown a little bit more comfortable with the process, even though I'm not fully in love with the results of what it looks like right now. We're just doing 4 characters, and this was a good chance to experiment with something a little bit different. Finding little subtle renderings to add a little bit more texture to the fur. I thought was a nice choice here. The mittens and the socks really stand out, so that was definitely a goal as well. Last, certainly not least, kind of our Hulk character would be Horton. Horton Hears a Who. He's got his little puff right there on the end as well. This one, gosh, difficult to pick a favorite. This one's definitely up there. Fox is probably in last place. I really like how the Grinch turned out. I like the idea of the Cat in the Hat, but the Cat in the Hat suffered from being the experimentation of the first one I made. So probably the Grinch or Horton. Lots of shading on here. I went with a pink version and a blue version. I just kind of switched the puff and the elephant. I thought that was only natural. Obviously, a tag fighter would have more colors than just 2, but for what you're going to see next, I think it works. So we've got our 4 characters, and then I went in and did some some filtering, some blurs, some textures. I've got our fake screen here. I used the secret Dr. Seuss paintings for background levels, and you can see that kind of in the top right. We've got the space level. It's playing You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch in the background for the song. I got this Dr. Seuss font. I thought the framing was interesting. Yellow just really grabbed me for the background elements. That might be because I didn't really have any yellow characters in the 4 that I picked, but I thought it created a nice level of balance. You've got your scan lines from your TV on there. Probably could have added a little bit more noise in some places, but I think it works. Here's another level. Beach with the alternate color schemes. Again, the secret Dr. Seuss paintings. I think they make for some really nice levels. I love the versus sign. Love the frames. Got our little 99 timer on there. We're listening to the Cat in the Hat song. I like how things break the frame in certain places. Placing the characters in a way that was interesting that still added to the composition was kind of a fun challenge at the end. Obviously, I got to test in a mirrored format. Do the character portraits work facing both directions? That's an easy way to check to see if your drawing is successful or not, and that was definitely something I wanted to include here as well. So that being said, that is Dr. Seuss Skirmish. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.